domain and range. And how do we describe them? You have to think for a second. I wonder if anyone can remember what their definition for domain is back from year 9. Does anyone have a stab at it? Yeah, Ravi.
It's the set of x values which is defined for a graph.
The set of x values that are,
Plural.
yes, good English, are defined for, and let's go with the language we've been talking about, so I'm going to say a function. For a function. Okay, I think this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I'm going to add something to this a little bit, because let's think about this. The set of x values that are defined for a function, what does it mean that I define them? Like I say, oh, what is 1? It's a nice number, it's kind of straight, you know. I'm not just defining the x values, right? It's actually the function I'm interested in, okay? So I'm going to say it's the set of x values that enable, I need this defined word, but I'm going to come back to it. Enable a function to be defined. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's go y equals 1 over x. Okay, and you can sort of picture it in your head, right? Now, what would the domain of this thing be? Okay. Now, I'm going to use this as a bit of a tangent. Not talking about circles. To describe to you how do you define, how do you actually describe what the domain or range of something is? I'm going to tell you 3 right ways and 1 wrong way to do it. Okay, I need more colours. So, right and wrong. Okay. So, here's the wrong way to write the domain for this. Okay, domain is x is not equal to 0. Now, I won't make you put your hands up, but I'm sure some of you are probably thinking that's the way I would describe the domain, right? Because you can go everywhere except for there. Okay. Now, let's just look back at this definition that Ravi and us came up with, right? Why doesn't this work as an answer to this? Yeah, Jesse.
It's not a set.
Ah, okay. So a set is a bunch of numbers, right? Some values. And this is, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's a not value. So here's the way I would try and describe it. If I asked you, what's your favorite movie? Okay, let me figure out what it is. And if you asked me that, and I said, not Twilight, because I hate Twilight. Sorry if you're a Twilight. What are they called? Twilight? Anyway. If I said that to you, right? If I said not Twilight, okay, that doesn't answer your question. You're like, I don't know what your favorite is, because I've told you what my favorite isn't. Does that make sense? Okay. So in the same way, you haven't described the domain here. You've described what the domain is not. Okay. So therefore, how do you do it? There are 3 right ways to do it. 3 right ways, not 3 right ways. I'm going to give them to you in increasing complexity. Okay. So the simplest one is here, and the most nerdy one is down the bottom. Okay. So I think the easiest way is to say x is less than 0 or x is greater than 0. Does that make sense? Because what's the picture? Looks like this. Okay, and you've got some asymptotes in there. Okay. So when you look across this thing, where is the function defined? Where has it got a definition? Well, over here, x is less than 0, we're good, right? You've got this problem in the middle, but over here, x is greater than 0, you're fine. Okay. Now, quick question. Why is that or? Why is it not and? Because particular teachers wanted it to be that way. Okay, let's extend the question. Why did particular teachers want it to be that way? My daughter, she's 4. She has this thing, I don't think she gets the concept of favorites, right? So when I say, what's your favorite color? She says, pink and orange and green, and then she names all the colors in the rainbow. And I'm like, I don't think you get what a favorite is. You can only have one, right? And you can't have a color, there's no color, which is all of those at the same time, right? And the same way, if I said and, okay, red because it's wrong. Can you think of a number that meets this condition and this condition at the same time? You might as well think of a color that's pink and orange, Okay? So that's why particular teachers want it this way. Because or is right. Okay. Alright, next option. You can say, if you really like this, come on, I just want to say one value. Okay? I would say all real values of x except that one, because that's the one which causes problems. Okay? All real values of x. We'll get into the other stuff that aren't real later on, but that'll do. Okay? Now people don't tend to like this because it's long and we're lazy. Okay? So that gave birth to the next option, which is really just saying this, but in nerd speak. Even for me, I'm a math teacher, I think this is I never write like this. Okay? Jesse said it has to be set. Right? So if I'm describing a set, a natural way to do that is to use set notation, which everyone hates because you did it 3 years ago and no one can remember it. But to refresh you, here's the way it works. You start with a curly brace, and then you say x is defined for the real number set, it's an element of, but x can't be equal to 0. So you can see that's kind of close to where we started, and the wrong answer, right? But the reason why I almost know no one, like, you know, the Stacys and Victor Q's of the world, they kind of write it like this because they know set notation. The rest of us, you're like, oh, I think there's a colon somewhere, and like a, I don't know, is that like a 3 or a, well, who knows, okay? So that's pretty hard to remember, I don't use it. I go for this one. That's my preference, okay? You do whichever you like. Any of those is fine. This one is not, just like Twilight is not. Yeah?
If you don't put like the bracket thing,
You mean the braces?
and you just write x in the element of like real numbers.
Yep.
And then x is not equal to 0, do you lose marks?
Do you mean you just write this part?
Yep.
Okay, so depends how mean and how much sleep and how much coffee your marker has had, right? Now, here's the thing. I hate, like, it's a bit like, you know, subjects where it's so subjective and that kind of thing. It's always up to what the marker decides. And I want to kind of avoid putting myself in a position like that. Honestly, if I saw this, my conclusion is, yeah, they get it. Tick. Okay. But it's not set notation. So I'm like, do I have to? Do you see what I mean? And it puts the marker in a corner. And it's like, well, how many marks is this question worth? And when you guys get your half yearly, and we take you down to the lecture theatre to give you an exam review, you get to see inside the tortured soul of a marker and how difficult it is actually when we get stuff like this. Okay? Just another reason why I tend not to go with this option. Okay. All right. Now, if that's, I just spent a long time on domain. Sorry, but the reason why is because we've done most of the work for range. What's range? As above, but for y.